Inklings, Octolings, the Splatlands. Where did they come from? This is something that has always been theorized in the Splatoon fandom, but never truly answered. Just a lot of guesses and seldom answers in the Splatoon games. We had stuff about the Professor, we had stuff about Judd, but we never had the true answer we were looking for. What happened to all the other humans? What happened to planet Earth? Why are the Inklings and Octolings roaming about? And really, how did they come to be? How did squids evolve into Inklings? And so, my name is Troyfu, and welcome to my Splatoon 3 Lore and Theory video. So in this video, spoiler warning to start it off, we're going to be talking about the end game, what is going to be in the future of Splatoon, who the potential bad guys for Splatoon 4 are going to be, and we're going to be discussing the logbook, the origins of Inklings and Octolings and the Splatlands, as well as a bunch of extra bonus content. But before I get into it, guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, help me out, don't forget to like, share the video, and if you like game theory videos, Mario Kaizo levels, or, walkthroughs and game explanation videos, please subscribe, help me out, and thank you, and enjoy the video. So we're going to start with the most important thing in the game, answering the lore questions via the logbooks and the sunken scrolls. The logbooks are very important for, well, the past of planet Earth, how Inklings came to be. Their entire lore and origins are really based on the logbooks compared to the sunken scrolls being the first historical documents of the Inklings. So in the first logbook, they just talk about how technology became such an advancement that it led to massive war on planet Earth. Because of this, humanity essentially went on the brink of extinction. Wars were fought, buildings were destroyed, natural disasters were intensified, and of course the sea level rose, consuming most of the planet. So in those scenes where we see space on the outside, you could actually see that the water level is pretty high and there's not that much land on Earth anymore. The books, or the logbooks technically, are written by a computer, possibly Orca. Here, as a note, the computer generated that humanity had a 42,791 to 1 chance to survive, and, well, computer odds ain't always right. Logbook 2 talks about the actual surviving humans from that odds, and the humans that survived all hid inside a cave. The remaining humans and the remaining scientists all work together in that the humans elect the scientists as leaders. They gave them one task, and it's to establish a sustainable ecosystem within the cavern that they all live in. They dubbed this society and this cavern Alterna, which is the entire Splatoon 3 story mode is essentially where every single surviving human on Earth lived. As we get into Logbook 3, they talk about life in Alterna. So how did they survive in the cavern? And it's actually a very interesting thing. A scientist, a singular one, discovered how to make something called liquid crystals, and they made it from the bodily fluids of squids. This is very important as it's going to tie into the sunken scrolls later on in the video. But think about it like this. These crystals, they can read your mind. They can create output imagery of anything you want, and it'll be created. So with this, they started mass producing the crystals, and eventually they lined up the entire walls of the cavern of Alterna to look and be with these crystals, which is why when you first enter the cavern after you fall through, it looks like a hologram. It kind of looks like a future. This isn't truly what it looks like, but now we know it's due to liquid crystals, which have a really important meaning, especially to the origins of Inklings and Octolings. Logbook 4 talks about how Alterna just is a successful new boon in population, but the scientists are old, and now the entire society and all the humans that lived in Alterna are people who have never been on Earth. The scientists have gotten elder and elected a new generation, basically, and as successors, they, of course, led Alterna to even greater heights and goals, which is why we don't see any humans when we get there. However, they also are pretty restless for living in a cavern their whole time. They wanted to see the outside world. They felt like they belonged and they deserved to see reality outside the cavern. Logbook 5 talks about how Alterna collapsed. In not a bad way, it's just that the inner walls started collapsing and these liquid crystals started falling into the waters below Alterna and into the ocean. Then the crystals started breaking into microscopic fragments, and because they absorbed and reflected humanity's wishes over the years, it retained the feelings of them. Little by little, sea creatures, squids, octopuses, any organism that was in the water absorbed these crystals into their body. And the marine organisms, well, after many, many years, they started to feel something. Quote, something fresh. These fresh impulses bore a striking resemblance to humanity's desire to return to Earth. Logbook 6, the last one you could get without completing the secret level, talks about how the beings emerged from the water. They conquered the Earth from here. Well, it's more roamed and empty planet, but they were able to survive the harsh conditions of it. And this event led to the land above Alterna now being dubbed as the Splatlands. This region they submerged from is now called the, quote, lands of fresh beginnings. Now we have the origins of where Inklings and Octolings came from, where all the creatures that we know are friendly of emerged from, how it started. This is their evolution, I guess their Darwinism of it, which is insane. Now, of all the species roaming the Earth though, the squids and octopuses, or octopi, soon distinguished themselves as the most intelligent and, quote, the ones with the most fresh vibe, and they became the apex species. After you complete the secret kettle level, collecting every single thing, a secret logbook talks about the potential future bad guys of Splatoon 4. This could be Splatoon 3 DLC or Splatoon 4. And this would lead us to going to space because, as it turns out, during those wars, some humans survived that were not in the cavern or in the cave of Alterna. In fact, they were on a rocket ship that launched at the last second, and it was called the Ark Polaris. The Ark Polaris placed many of Earth's species in a cold sleep, as the mission was like a very simple sci-fi mission. It was to find another planet to replace planet Earth. The Polaris had a smooth journey until it reached the edge of the solar system. It was hit by some debris and, well, that caused damage to its navigation system. That is the last remaining entry in all the logbooks, and no other information was found from there. So potentially Mr. Grizz came from the Ark Polaris. He was one of the species on there. He evolved somehow. There could be more. As you recall, when you fight Mr. Grizz, it gives you number 03 Mr. Grizz. So there are others, of course, and this could just be what Splatoon 4 is going to be, because I think Splatoon 3 DLC, I don't think we're going to space yet. In fact, there's some information about potential bad guys in the Sunken Scrolls that we're about to get into. So I wanted to talk about the Sunken Scrolls with me in person, because there's so much to go into this as well. There's not all 24 pages aren't as relevant, but I think the interesting thing is on the first page, you could see that, well, that's Earth. That's Italy, that's Europe. I mean, we already know we're on Earth, but these are confirmed lands, and it's interesting to know that the Inklings, Octolings, and all the creatures absorbed some of the culture from each area they went to. The text is explaining how they prepare the same food, but in completely different ways. And it's just really interesting to see that Italy, that Europe part has survived, as well as like the China, India, Asia side, where there's no confirmation on any other parts of Earth, as it is mostly flooded. So this could be the only land that's left, but it's still a lot of land. Page 2 is also really interesting because it talks about like the first Inklings. It says how they almost lost all the land, how it was almost washed away. And it's also in an Asian art style, a Japanese art style. It's just really funny to see that they kind of took that art, but it's also very interesting to see that, you know, the first Inklings, this is what they saw as they emerged from Alterna, and why they have these festivals, or why they have a festival. Now, another important page is here. The origins of Rumbles actually came from manga, which is very funny. You know, it's not a JoJo reference, but it's got a very old school manga, school uniform with the guy with the hair. It's just interesting that Rumbles came from Japanese manga. Another interesting thing is not the president talking about turf wars. How they talk about salmonoids, they return to the ocean. There's a lot of creature evolution pages. I believe there's one other one we're going to see later on about crustaceans. But yeah, it'll talk about these kind of things where creatures still, you know, they long for their innate desires. Now, this one's super cool for Shiver fans, as I think these are called Hanafora cards from what I can recall, and Well, it looks like Shiver based her design and appearance on these cards. She has the shark, who's her master. She's got the same blue hair. In fact, this card could be based on her or vice versa. It's just a very interesting thing to see. Now, the next page, I believe, with the crustaceans. If I could read, if anybody knows how to translate Inkling writings or Splatoon's like special text, there's a lot of untapped potential here. Here they talk about crustaceans, why they grew a lot more in the Splatlands versus other areas you go to. But here's another interesting thing. They have the internet, which is kind of cool. I mean, maybe it was always around, but they have their own type of like Instagram. They have their own shop pages and all that. And well, you know, internet is an access to a lot of knowledge. And we already know that the Inklings are and Octolings are, you know, smart people. They also have labor unions. All right, see here they got the promotion to captain of pay grade 33. So it's funny to see how new Squid Week has to follow like government kind of laws. But yeah. I guess he went back to being a captain, so he's not ex-cap anymore. And this is the most important lore page of all of them, page 21. This talks about, this is a squid. A dried out remains of a squid. So here it goes. Seems there are instructions on how to mummify an Inkling. Maybe in olden times, Inklings thought if they preserved their bodies after death, they could be revived someday. But that's, well, there's no way this is a real one stuck here, right? No, of course it isn't, right? But we know that this is a squid from our time on Earth, that they squeezed out the juices and were able to make that liquid crystal, which is what powers all of Alterna. It's just crazy to see. And this is this is an Inkling's thoughts of writing up what this is. It's just it's crazy. It's crazy. Anybody who is looking for information on Splatoon 2 girls, there you go, off the hook. And of course, Judd. And now the most important page, the other question going to be answered. Who's the DLC bad guys or the future bad guys in 4? Right here could be the answer. These guys scratched out, they're clearly from here, might be in Splatoon 3 DLC. The names, Nishio Aranda, alias. Poison Rug, alias. Ranchi Yu, alias. They were in these areas in the game. Their subject name, Marigold. They were looking for something. That's why they were scattered all around. But we don't know what their true name is, what their true purpose is. My guess, these guys are DLC bad guys, you know, or maybe some sort of type of expansion going on. Who knows? Because the only reason why I'm saying they're current game bad guys is because they look like Inklings and Octolings. You know, they don't remind me of Mr. Grizz. Mr. Grizz and the humans out there on the Ark, I assume, are going to be for a later kind of thing. I think we're going to space, or I think we're going to fight the other humans. I think their desire to come back home, since they can't find a new Earth, and they believe they deserve to keep Earth, I think that'll will us out there into some type of a Splatoon war. But it also has to, you know, stay kind of that fun Splatoon way. It's very interesting to see what's going on here. But, yeah. That's, Splatoon 3 decided to give a bountiful bunch of lore. I mean, I don't even know what's going to happen at this point. They could go in any direction. However, they set it up openly enough where Splatoon could continue its story mode and its missions on with more and more bad guys. And with that, guys, that's the end of the video. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know any theories you guys got, anything maybe I got wrong, maybe something I didn't notice that you guys did. I would love to hear it. Again, if anybody could translate any Splatoon writing, that would be sick. Hit me up. And yeah, enjoy the game. Have a great time with it. Let me know what your choice of weapon is. Peace, homies.